On this episode of the CK Motorsports Full Throttle, we remember a driver who changed NASCAR forever. A racer who made people cheer, boo, and celebrate, and then tune in every week to see what he would do next. We also remember a guy who was a two-time NASCAR Series champion, had over 200 victories in all three series, and was a father, a mentor, a team owner, and a husband, and one of the fiercest competitors in the sport has ever seen, and arguably one of the greatest of all time to get in a race car. On this episode, we remember Kyle Busch. What's going on, CK Nation? I think it's only fitting, as you all know, this past Thursday we lost a legend in our sport. So I think it's only fitting that this episode we remember that man tonight or today. We remember the one and only Kyle Busch. Now, when you think about Kyle Busch, you think of the nickname Rowdy, and how rowdy he was, how furious he was, how very competitive he was on the tracks from it. And they always say he hated to lose more than he loved to win. So, with that, let's look at how the making of Rowdy came about. Before the championships and before the rivalries, before the nickname Rowdy became legendary, Kyle Busch was just another kid from Las Vegas with unbelievable talent. It's been stated that he graduated out of high school early so he could hit the track and grow up alongside his older brother Kurt Busch and have racing become a part of his everyday life. And at the very beginning, Kyle drove like someone who refused to back down. From legend cars all the way up to his start in the truck series. When he arrived in NASCAR, people immediately noticed two things about him. He was fast, and he absolutely did not care what anyone thought about him. When he signed his deal with Hendrick Motorsports, the young driver quickly became one of the best rising and brightest stars in the sport. He was fearless behind the wheel, aggressive in traffic, and raw on the radio. And when I say raw on the radio, he didn't hold anything back about what he felt or how he felt or what was going on with the car or anything like that. He was completely unapologetic. A lot of fans, honestly, when Kyle came on the sport, didn't know what to make of him. Some loved the confidence, others couldn't stand it. But everybody watched him, because even early on, you could see greatness coming. Kyle Busch wasn't trying to fit in NASCAR. He was trying to dominate it. And dominate it, he did. When Kyle Busch joined Joe Gibbs, after it seemed that his time in Hendrick was coming to an end and he was at somewhat of an okay career and they were moving Dale Jr. in, the Joe Gibbs deal opened up a new thing for Kyle. And man, did he start coming around. Wins started piling up. Bristol Motor Speedway became his playground. Entire weekends belonged to him. Truck race, Xfinity race, Cup race. Well, O'Reilly's race now, but yeah, Cup race. Sometimes Busch would sweep all three, which he did twice. Once at Bristol, or I think he did did twice at Bristol. And suddenly NASCAR had something it had never really seen before. A driver capable of winning in absolutely anything he was put in. But I think the most defining moment in Kyle Busch's career, honestly, and I talked about this on the Throttle Talk by the Pit, is in 2015, when it all started for him at Daytona, in the 54 Monster Energy Chevrolet, racing down the track, got turned and went slamming right into the infield wall. A devastating crash at that, definitely. He suffered broken legs, And everybody thought at that point, oh no, Kyle Busch's season is done. There's no way he recovers in time to even compete for a championship, let alone get back in the car. Now, I will say this. I thought the same thing. I was like, man, dude, there's no way Kyle Busch is getting back in the car. But as most drivers would have focused on recovery, most drivers would accept defeat, Kyle Busch didn't. Kyle Busch pushed the limit and came back. And somehow that season turned into one of probably the best seasons ever. He ended up winning the 2015 Cup Series championship, which was his first of two. And he proved to everybody why he was what some would say superhuman. Because nobody heard of that before. Broke both legs and turns around, rehabs, does what he has to do, gets back in the car, and here we are. A 2015 Cup Series champion. It became one of the greatest comeback stories in NASCAR history. Not because it was easy, but because it seemed impossible. And somehow Kyle Busch kept doing the impossible. By the end of his career, the numbers almost didn't seem real. Over 230 National Series victories, one of the winningest drivers in stock car racing had ever seen. And through it all, Kyle Busch has never lost the edge that made him special. He raced every lap like it mattered because it did to him. Now, let's be honest. When we go back to saying fans who loved him, he was as well, in my opinion, he was NASCAR's perfect villain. He wasn't universally loved. He wasn't loved by me at first. I will tell you straight out, like I said on the Throttle Talk. I'm a huge Dale Jr. fan. Always have and always will be. I'm a huge Chase Elliott fan, obviously. Always have since he's come up through the O'Reilly series, and always will be. And when Kyle turned Junior that night at Richmond, I was just like the rest of the Junior Nation out there, pissed off, upset. Didn't like Kyle Busch. Had a few choice words about him. And said, I hope Junior gets him back. And I tuned in every week to hope. And hoping to see Junior would put a bumper to him. Return the favor. But you know what? Strangely enough, though, when you think about it, with that villain type attitude he had, that's exactly why the sport needed him. When you go to the races, you would hear fans boo him during driver inductions. They even booed him after wins. There's a classic time when he won, and they booed him, and he looked right at the camera and went. So that to me is a classic villain, people. They booed him when he wrecked somebody. Like I just said, an example for me. I booed him, said a few choice words at the TV when he wrecked Junior at Richmond. But somehow, Kyle seemed to enjoy every second of it. Because Kyle Busch understood something many athletes never do. Emotion matters. Sports are supposed to make people feel something, whether fans loved or hated him. Kyle Busch made people care. When he won, social media exploded. When he wrecked somebody, people argued for days. When he showed up at Bristol, the atmosphere felt different. The star power, that's presence. That's what legends do. That's why he's considered and arguably one of the greatest of all time to step in a race car. Because he had that attachment, that emotional attachment with the fans. Like I said Thursday when we broke the news of losing him. Either you loved him or you hated him. But right now, we're all Rowdy fans. But you either, at one point or another, you loved him or you hated him. And that's the thing. Kyle Busch wasn't always trying to be the nice guy. He was just trying to win races. And honestly, NASCAR was more exciting because of it. Because every week, he was always in the talks. What's Kyle Busch going to do this week? Where is he going to finish at this week? Will he win this week? I remember there was times where, and me and my wife were talking about this yesterday, where when Kyle Busch's name was entered on the truck race or the O'Reilly's race on Saturdays, the first thought that ran through your mind is, oh man, do we even need to watch this? Because we know who's going to win. Because 9 times out of 10, Kyle Busch was going to victory lane. That's why that's why he holds the record right now as the winningest driver in the O'Reilly series with over 100 wins. But over time, fans started seeing another side of Kyle Busch. A side away from the helmet, away from the rivalries, and away from the booze. As an owner of Kyle Busch Motorsports, he shaped the next generation of drivers. Like drivers such as William Byron, Noah Gragson, Bubba Wallace, Eric Jones, Christopher Bell, Daniel Suarez. A lot of these guys passed through Kyle Busch Motorsports in the truck series to get a start because he believed in them. He wanted to help develop the next generation of talent. That's how he was. He just didn't start KBM for him to get in the truck and win all the time, which he did a lot of. He started KBM to help develop and bring the next generation up. That's why, like I said, we have guys like William Byron, Bell, Eric Jones, Bubba Wallace, Daniel Suarez, Noah Gragson, just to name a few. Jesse Love cried last night after finishing second and stated, I wanted to win this one really bad for my hero, my mentor, Kyle Busch, because that's the effect that he had on the NASCAR world and on the drivers. Behind the intensity was someone deeply invested in the racing future, someone who wanted young talent to succeed, someone who genuinely loved the sport. And then there was family. I stated earlier in the week that that's one of the reasons why I grew and had respect for Kyle Busch, was because I believe he is the definition of when you get married and you have kids, you can change. And he changed. When he met Samantha, the love of his life, he changed. When they had Brexton, oh, his world definitely changed. You could see it in social media posts, how he loved that kid, man. My favorite memory of him when he would win was he would throw Brexton in the air in victory lane. Every time he would toss him up in the air and catch him. Great father-son moment. Then he started doing it with Lennox. If Lennox would have been at Dover, he would have did it then on his last win. But at Atlanta, he did it in the trucks. Pit Lennox up, tossed her up, caught her. The joy on her face, the joy on his face. As fans watched, Kyle became a father and saw him differently, and still competitive, still fiery, but he has softer side in moments that mattered the most. When we sit here and we all say that we were wondering, what was Kyle Busch going to do? Was he going to leave RCR? Was he going to go to Spire? What was he going to do? How much longer did he have in the sport? I think the ultimate goal for Kyle Busch was, and always was, when I retire, I want to move on and do something I'm really loving, and that's watch Brexton enjoy the sport and help him move in his career and help him move forward and help him get where he needs to be. And don't get me wrong, I watched Brexton's stuff. He has talent. He's going to be great in the sport one day. Some of Kyle Busch's greatest victories weren't on the racetrack at all. They were in the garage area, watching Brexton race, like I just mentioned, at Millbridge. Or even when they came here for a testing close to my home at Rockfish Speedway in Rayford. Just to watch him out there with his son doing what they love, enjoying the sport together. smiling as a dad instead of standing as a driver, and those moments reminded everyone that behind the helmet was a human being. Even in the latter years of his career, Kyle Busch never stopped competing. At Richard Childress Racing, he remained one of the NASCAR's toughest drivers. When he left JGR, we all thought, oh no, what's going to happen? Then we thought, why did he choose a program that's really kind of fell off? Not the same anymore. Not the same RCR since Harvick was there, or Boyer, or even the late great Dale Sr. Why did he choose to go there? Because again, he chose to go there because he wanted to help make it better. He wanted to get RCR back to where it was in them days, when they were winning championships, when they were winning and celebrating the victory lane. He wanted to help it get there, just like he started KBM. He wanted to help RCR get there again. He even, when he came into Richard Childress, he was still winning races. He won 3 races there in the 8 car. Yes, the last 2 seasons were probably not some of his best. We saw the emotion. We saw the pain. We saw the anguish. We even heard him at Wilkesboro when he got into it with Ricky Stenhouse say, when Ricky Stenhouse said, I'm going to wreck you, he said, I don't care. I'm sucking just as bad as you right now. That's the emotion the man had for the sport. That's why he loved the sport. That's why he's considered the greatest of all time. And yes, I'm saying it now. Greatest of all time. And that's no disrespect to Richard Petty or Earnhardt. They have 7 championships, so they are even greater in their own. And Jimmy Johnson in their own right. But Kyle Busch's face belongs on the Mount Rushmore of NASCAR greats. Because he is. And I'll even state that for everybody so we don't get upset. He is one of the greatest of all time to step in a race car. Because he was still winning races. He was still fighting for veterans and young stars alike. And he's still believing that the next victory was coming. And maybe that's the most fitting thing about Kyle Busch. He never stopped racing. Not mentally, not emotionally, not spiritually. Racing was just what he did, and it was who he was. When his news of his passing spread across the racing world this past week, everything seemed to pause. Drivers, teams, fans, everybody suddenly realized the same thing. That NASCAR would never feel exactly the same again. We were in that same... It's fair to say we were in that same dark world we were back in 2001 when we lost Dale Sr. What do we do? What's going to happen? How do we get over this? Some people say we shouldn't race this past week at Charlotte. Some people say we shouldn't race at all. But just like we did for Dale Sr., and we found out that was the comforting that we needed, we're doing it now. We're still going to continue to race. We're still going to sit and watch NASCAR racing on the weekends. Because that is honestly the full healing we need. Because Kyle Busch wouldn't want us to sit at home and not race. And that's the thing that I want to get across to everyone in the CK Nation as well. And Chase Elliott said it best, and it just hit me like that. I'm not saying we're going to forget about Kyle Busch, because we'll never forget about Rowdy. We won't. But yes, the passing of him is news right now. And in a week or two, we won't be talking about it no more. But here's the thing. Let's not forget Rowdy. Let's not forget his legacy. Let's not forget his memory. And when Brexton's able to run in the up 3-class series up in the future, let's just not cheer for him because of who his daddy was, but let's just support him because of what he's going through right now. We did it for Dale Jr. Let's do it for Brexton. I'm not saying become Brexton fans, and I'm not saying lose your own, don't be a fan of your favorite driver anymore. I'm just saying, and a little bit aside of you, let's root for Brex. And one more thing too, let's not allow these situations to bring us all close together for 1 week. Let's, with Dale Sr., we still remember him. But it seems like we were all together as one unison for 1 week or 2 or 3. And then we slowly faded off. Let's stay together as NASCAR fans as a whole, as a community. Even though we've lost greats like Alan Kowicki, Sr., Adam Petty, Kenny Irwin, and now the late great Kyle Busch. Let's stay as a tight-knit community. Let's not have situations like this bring us all together. Let's stay together. Let's root for our favorite drivers every weekend, but stay together as a tight-knit community. And let's just continue to enjoy the sport that was brought for us. So, from all of us here in the CK Motorsports Full Throttle and the nation, I just want to say thank you, Kyle Busch, for the memories, for the rivalries, for the championships, for the passion, and for reminding us what fearless racing looks like. And remember, we're always full throttle for Kyle and always forever Rowdy.